Good evening. I'm the Rock Doc, and this is.
Hey, I'm Gabe.
How's it going? We're just hanging out. We're just gonna have fun. I don't know. What should we talk about?
Yeah, we'll just kind of do a more relaxed, just talk about whatever this time. Try to change up the pace a bit. Have some more fun stuff.
Yeah. So, can they see Cuddles yet?
I mean, yeah, but she's comfy.
Oh, but she's cute. Aw, that doesn't look very cute. Yep. She's a sweetheart. She really is.
But yeah, so we'll probably just talk about random stuff. Did you want to talk about we had an interesting theory about thyroid? You want to do that?
That's kind of deep.
Is it? We could do a bit talk about Bigfoot or something.
Yeah, you want to tell them about the time that you think you saw Bigfoot?
Well, we both have some interesting Bigfoot
We've both seen
stories.
Bigfoot. Yeah.
Yeah. I think your ones are more interesting, so I'll start with mine. There was this one time, I was in my room doing homework, and we had just recently moved into this mobile home on this patch of land near a lake, and so this patch was actually there was no home there before. We'd actually cleared out an area and then put the house on there. So for the first month or so, we had a lot of wildlife coming through there because they were used to walking through there
to get to the lake.
Yeah, and it eventually stopped because people live here, and they went in a different pathway entirely. But so we had a lot of animals there, and one day I was looking out my window, which happened to face directly into our yard, and there was a road that kind of wrapped around the house a bit. So even though that road was there, the animals still had to go through it in order to get to the lake. And I would see cars kind of pass through that road, but the trees were thick enough you can only barely see through that. But we have been slowly clearing them out, so there was patches that I can see the cars pass through, and so I also can see how tall the cars all are and all that. And then
and there were street lights too, or security lights.
Not at that time.
Oh, there wasn't at that time?
No.
Oh, okay.
But this was during the day anyways. And so one day I just was looking out my window while I was doing work, and I just happened to be watching it as something passed across there that was taller than any of the cars. I think twice the height. And it was that might have been Bigfoot. But then the thing was that the reason why I thought that is because I kept hearing a bunch of
weird calls.
Yeah. And so it was taller than the car by a considerable amount. I was like, well, people are probably taller than cars too. So I compared it to one of the vans that was in our driveway at one time. I was like, oh no, the van is about as tall as a person, which meant this thing that was standing considerably higher than that. And it was definitely not a deer, considering the length of it wasn't that long. It was just tall and upright. And it was just a brown thing that ran across. And so we realized it was probably Bigfoot going to the lake.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of going to the lake, I think you can hear our dog drinking the water.
Yeah. She's very loud about it. But yeah, so that was interesting. I kept looking, but it seemed like it didn't go around the curve into along the road. It seemed like it ran across and then went somewhere else I couldn't see. Then there was I feel like there was another time in which I saw a sighting.
Well, and you were really good at doing the Bigfoot calls, and they would actually respond to him. You would do the knocks and the calls. We had a neighbor up the street who was
we actually did, it wasn't too long after I saw that we went out into our own yard, found a really big stick because we've been clearing out a lot of that land, and we had a lot of trees there. So I hit the tree 3 times, and I tried to make it as loud as I can, but also there's a lot of bounce back on the stick. I know people would naturally, if they were trying to do it, would do it, and it bounced back and then do it again, and it had just a little bit of a delay. But I was like, Bigfoot doesn't have that delay. He's too strong.
Yeah.
So I tried to do hit the tree as fast as I could too, and then I would do the call, and we heard a response out towards the woods where there is nobody. There's no buildings or anything like that. It's closer to the lake. All our neighbors are behind us or from the way facing, it would have been to the left. But this thing was more out in the complete opposite direction of any other people. And we heard a response. Although, hilariously enough, we also heard another response a little bit behind us to the left. Realized that we had our neighbors were hearing this happening and we're getting excited making calls too.
Yeah, so we're like, is it Bigfoot or is it another person across the lake making Bigfoot calls?
Yeah. But that reminds me of that one time at the hotel where we heard that, and we had our dog Sandy at the time would live outside, and she every once in a while would become incredibly scared, and she's part wolf. Nothing really scares her except for Bigfoot, and we would know.
And there's a smell. They smell.
Yeah, if there was a smell that they were like it kind of sometimes there's like bad smells, and our dog loves those bad smells. Oh. And like she loved to, if she could find a bag of fish, she would roll in it. You know, if she found a dead deer, she would roll in it. She loved bad smells. There was like this one particular bad smell. I think we should
explain the bags of fish.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this way. So there are some bad smells she loves, but there's this one particular one.
I don't love them. We had to clean them up.
Yeah, but the dog loved them. Is what I'm saying, because she just loved bad smells. She's like rancid stuff. But sometimes there's this one smell that she just made her start shaking, like really badly shaking, and then we sometimes we would be in our yard and we hear those calls. And she would start shaking, and like sometimes we were watching like Bigfoot documentaries, and whenever they would play a sound, like a
she
recording,
knew if they were real or fake.
Yeah, she so like if someone was faking the calls, she stepped asleep. But if they were replaying audio that someone recorded out in the woods of a Bigfoot call that they heard, not made, then she would start getting scared and shaking. And the only thing that she was scared of, too, was storms. And she would act the exact same way as though there was a tornado hitting. Yeah. You know? So she's deathly afraid of these. And one day, we saw her out the window because we kept her outside at this hotel that we would used to run. And there was she was like in her doghouse, shaking, really scared. And we saw that through the window. So we went out to go see what was the matter with her, because it was a nice, clear, sunny day. And that's when we heard, not too far away, a Bigfoot making a bunch of noise. And it was a very specific, like, whoop noise. And it's kind of frightening, but at the same time you go, it could also still be somebody making it.
Can you still demonstrate the Bigfoot call?
I don't think I could, because it'd be really hard to do it in here, and if that microphone could catch it, I don't know. I could try, but it's just been a long time.
And then your dad's gonna come crashing out the bedroom with the gun.
Yeah, but it's a very much a whoop, kind of noise, but it's like really loud, and it's really
definitely
long.
Loud, yeah.
But the thing is why it's so hard to do it, and why I notice people on TVs, they can never recreate, because they always do it as quick as they can, because it requires so much
air,
like air and lung capacity, that most people can't do it. And like I had asthma as a kid, so I don't have the greatest lung capacity, but I know I had to kind of force it out a little bit longer for it to actually work, because we would actually practice and see if we can get response, and it took a long time before we could, and we realized that if you did it too many times, there's a higher chance of you messing up. In the moment you messed up, the Bigfoot would stop responding.
Yeah. So then they were like, I know it's fake, whatever. Yeah. And they would be absolutely silent.
Yeah, but so this one time, our dog was shaking, and I heard it, and it sounded like it was maybe 20 or 30 feet away. Like, it felt like it was at the edge of the forest line near us. Yeah. But then, this hotel, or motel, whatever, that we worked at, there was this highway directly connected to it. And it was like a 2-lane highway. Like, it's...
Yeah, just like a old, basically 2-lane road.
Yeah, so, like, it's not constant heavy traffic, but the traffic's very loud. And we get, like, a lot of trucks going down it. And then on the other side, that is just pure woods. There's nothing else. This is a pretty isolated hotel.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why anyone stayed there.
I don't know. It's like the Bates Motel. I don't know how they got business. I mean, it was two intersecting 2-lane highways that go to nowhere, Oklahoma. Nowhere.
Yeah. And so, like, across from that is woods. And so, I could hear distinctly across into those woods, a second one started responding to the first one that we were hearing. And this one was definitely, like, like 1,000 feet away. Like, it was very far away, but it was close enough to actually hear. Pretty closely. But it was like, you could tell there was a distance to it. So I was hearing this one Bigfoot near me making noise, and then the other one respond. And it was like a really cool experience. But the problem is our dog was so scared that we had to bring her inside. Plus, we were worried that with the Bigfoot nearby, who knows what would happen.
Yeah, well, now we should explain the bags of fish.
Yeah.
Because this is so nasty. And this is I hate to say, okay, we are in Oklahoma. This must be a southern redneck thing. I don't know. We would keep, every once in a while, she would go on these walkabouts. She's a wolf. She had to do like 3 or 4 miles. And she'd come back, and we would try to stop her. We'd have her tied up. Somehow, it just happened. We actually at the point where we would just drive around, and she'd follow the car. But anyways, sometimes she'd go on these walkabouts and come back with a smell you can't imagine, can't get rid of. The dog is never coming in the house again kind of smell. And it's like, oh, it's rotten fish. So you think that happens once. You think, I don't know where she found this. Maybe it was one fish naturally washed up on the shore and died. That's what we thought. Happened again. And we're going, my husband goes, because this happened the first time, he gets her all cleaned up. We'd use odor band, peroxide, everything, gets her all cleaned up. 2 days later she comes back covered in it again, and he goes, that's it, I have to find this fish because otherwise we're never going to stop this problem. And he comes back just mystified, and he goes, I went down to the lake, there's a whole bag of dead fish. I was like, so he's like, he takes a shovel and goes back, digs it out, buries it, because he figures he's no ways he's taking it home. And we're like, that's that. This kept happening. We've now moved across the other side of the lake. We found a bag of dead fish up the road. So I don't know if this is used for bait for something, or I just really think people, I don't know if they're just heads. It doesn't make sense, but this seems to be a thing. And
because like when it was a constant issue with the dog, it wasn't because she was digging up that one bag and kept getting into it.
There were new bags.
There was new bags.
Yeah,
and I was like, what is going on?
Well, and and speaking of roadkill, because this is just how it is around here.
Well, also it wasn't just fish. Our dog, if we had some hunters that would hunt deer. Okay. Yeah. Well, I thought I was going to mention that before you think.
Yeah. Well, and Bigfoot loved deer, but we had a right across the street from us this hunting trail. I think they used to use maybe for logging or something, but guys would go out there and sadly they would trophy hunt, which I'm absolutely against, and they would just take the head or the back strap, and they would literally just leave the body to rot either a little bit into the woods, right at the edge where their truck could get to, or they'd actually take it to the edge of the road and leave it. We had a wolf who needed deer meat. I started leaving signs up, please walk across the street, knock on the door, tell us, we'll come get it. And we got a couple that way, but honestly, they were just that lazy. So we had that to contend with too. But so this led...
She would eat the deer, but then she would also roll in it.
Yeah, she
rolls in everything.
She had to stink.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, like, I have to say, you'd think that was the worst smell on earth, but I'm telling you, you combine those smells and you have a Bigfoot. I mean, we're always like, oh. But so this led up to the...
Well, also the sad thing too is we had warning signs of our dog doing this, because in winter when it snowed, she rolled in the snow, and we were like, "Oh, that's adorable."
Oh, it's so cute.
Yeah, she rolls in the snow.
She would tumble out the door into the snow.
Yeah, like she's like making snow angels, and she's just getting covered. It's the cutest thing. Do we realize she would do that for other things, like the bags of fish
through
and
the
deer.
Bags of fish.
And today it wasn't so cute.
That was not cute. You're like praying for a snowstorm then. So this led to one of the other my more favorite stories I can't ever hear the end of in Hollywood circles. So I'll just share this one with you because it involves deer. So of course we had the wolf. She had to have deer meat. She ate raw meat of some sort every day. It got very expensive, so we would go to the taxidermist and get the deer that they, parts they weren't using. We were always trying to find deer parts. Well, Needless to say, the we were completely out, and my husband's, says you got to go find a way to get some meat tomorrow, and I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll figure it out tomorrow. 6 o'clock in the morning, he calls me on the phone. I'm thinking someone died, something died, but yeah, he called and he goes, "Hey, there's like a dead deer just up the street. Someone just hit with a truck. It's like, you could probably use it for the dog." And I'm going, ooh. And he goes, no, like it just tore the leg off, not to be gross. He goes, seriously, it'll be fine. I'm like, oh, well, it's my daughter's wolf. I didn't feel like I should have to do this alone. So I wake her up. I'm like, hey, there's a dead deer up the street, just killed, so it's fresh and everything's good. And oh, Mom, no. I was like, gotta feed your dog. Oh. So we get my 92 Buick Park Avenue and a black tarp. All Italians just have black body bags or tarps. It's just natural in the back of the car. We just all do, right?
And we love the Buick Park Avenue for its trunk space.
Trunk space, yeah. We now know how many deer or people you can fit in that trunk. After this event, people want to know. But anyways,
yeah.
So we go up there, and it literally is like within a quarter of a mile. We pull up. We find it. It's on the side of the road, and I'm like, yeah, we can just pull right up in front of it. Pull up right in front of it, and we lock our hands around the leg and arms and roll it up into the tarp. And then we lock under this black tarp, and we're swinging it like this into the trunk, and we happen to look at the people driving by, and they're like, because it looks like we're throwing a body in the trunk. I mean, it just does.
It's completely wrapped up.
Totally wrapped up. So we're like, just get home.
But there's blood everywhere.
Yeah, there's blood everywhere. We're like, just get home. Or they're going, look at those ghouls. I knew she was a witch. So we get it home, and this is a little everything in the world is explained on YouTube video time. So we're going, we don't even know what to do with this, right? We're like, I don't have a clue. We don't even have proper tools. We ended up with almost like a little butter knife, and I mean, whatever we could find, nothing is sharp. My daughter's going, ugh, ugh. I mean, we got it done. It took us like 3 hours, and my dad at the time lived across the street, avid deer hunter, would not help. I know, we kept asking questions. He goes, I don't know. I am sure he was looking out the window laughing his ass off, but we got it done, wrapped, and put in the freezer by the time my husband got home, and everything's cleaned up. And so he comes home, and he's like, well, and I go, it's all done. And he goes, what's all done? They go, the deer. No. And I was like, go look in the freezer. And he's just shocked, and I'm like, don't ever dare me again. He really didn't think we would do it, and I'm like, that's like $400 worth of meat that'll feed her the whole year. Of course we're going to do it.
Plus, it's a big freezer. We're not talking about the freezer on the refrigerator. We're talking about a separate freezer. Yeah. Yeah,
so needless to say, I should have never told anyone this story. So I'm at I think it was the 2013 Oscars in Hollywood, and I met she became a good friend of mine. And I drive my Buick everywhere. I drove it there. They see it on the red carpet. Everyone's laughing. They think I'm really eccentric, and I'm like, they think I'm weird, and I'm just an eccentric, and that's why I drive that car. But it's really comfortable and gets good gas mileage, and you can fit bodies in the trunk, right? So I knew I could fit all those suitcases with my dresses and everything. So I told her this story about the deer. She's like crying, laughing on the red carpet, like this is the most redneck crazy thing she has ever heard. All respect is out the window. And I had no idea it would make this kind of impact. So it was, I believe, 2 days later, we were at a Motown party with the Gordys. They're all sitting at my table. Richard Simmons is caterwauling. All this is going on. And she goes, tell them a deer story. No. I'm like, what deer story? Come on, tell them about the deer story. They already saw your car. I'm like, no. So they're all, at this point, going, tell us about the deer story. Needless to say, it does not matter where I go anymore. I've been to several Oscars, the VMAs, Emmys, even the 10th anniversary of the Wounded Warrior Project. This little story went viral. It's always, tell us about the deer story. I don't know why it's that funny, but... So, needless to say, that car is now parked, in the yard, and I probably honestly will be selling it, but there's a lot of great memories. Many bands have been in it. But again, is this the car with the deer story? And so they started to ask, they're like, how many deer could you put in the back of that? And I go, honestly, I could have probably crammed 2 more in there. And so then, right then and there, at one of these parties, they said, we need to find out how many bodies we can get in the trunk. We crammed 5 people in the trunk comfortably and shut the hood, so I know. And we used to joke that we could keep like a Geo Metro in the trunk in case we broke down on a long drive, just pop that out and, you're good to go. So, they're very roomy and, my life is hilarious when it collides that way. So everyone's always like, people have a lot of assumptions about me. They're coming out here for their bunnies or to buy some rare chicken eggs or something, and I'm probably no makeup, t-shirt, ponytail, covered in dirt. That's who I am. That's their first impression. And then some celebrity often calls, and I'm on speakerphone, because you can't hear out there, and it's always, what? Or then the same thing happens in reverse. I've been on the Oscars. I accidentally became the chicken pimp to Hollywood. That was just going to happen. I'm at the Oscars and people are calling about death layer chickens or I am Samanis, and I'm just talking about it, and they're like, I think I want some of those. So everybody knows me from different things. I mean, I was even Ms. Oklahoma, and, so those people would meet me at events and they have no idea I have chickens, rabbits, a crazy deer hauling Park Avenue. We always think the Canyonero song from The Simpsons, and so it's just crazy.
Especially with the scene where you hit the deer.
The deer squashing machine.
Yeah.
Now, I've never hit a deer because that would damage my car. But if it's on the side of the road. It's like the only thing
that would damage your car.
Yeah, but if it's on the side of the road, it's free game. That's the economy in Oklahoma, We literally, you just take your truck, your Park Avenue, whatever you can shove something in, and you just drive on the road on like Thursday on trash day. Isn't that called like Grabbin' Fest? Or something, and
heard that.
You go shopping, and so that's also how you get rid of your trash. Like, we just got the new My Pillow bed, and we have a bed that's I think almost 20 years old, is now in the hall. I'm like, what do we do with? My husband's like, what do you do with the bed? I go, you put it out on Thursday, it's gonna walk away. I mean, that's just the economy here, the whole redneck setup. But that's what we're going to try to do, because I swear to you, we have had things, that nobody would buy, and we'll put out by the trash can to pay for them to haul, and it's gone before the trash is picked up. And I think it's kind of a joke around here, but it seems to be the redneck economy, and God bless the redneck economy. My husband was a FedEx driver for a good neighborhood, and most of our really nice extra large dog kennels we used to transport rabbits, or even some of our large cages, were thrown out, and there was nothing wrong with them. So one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? Yeah. So I was like, oh no, I have to tell the deer story someday. I'm like, I have to get it off my chest, because everybody asks about it. They're like, how did this happen to come to be?
Also, listen really closely, a dog's stomach.
And now she's quiet. She does snore really loud. Now, I have to tell you, and my husband's going to kill me, but he's got sleep apnea, and he can snore at 70 decibels. I measured once. We got my phone in there, and I'm like, and I recorded it.
70 decibels? Is that,
Isn't that like low-flying airplane?
Yeah, we measured it's close to a low-flying, like jet or airplane.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's 70 decibels. Like, that was like 120 or something.
All I know is it was 70 it measured, and I recorded it. He didn't believe he snored, so I brought it to the doctor. But the worst thing is the dog will often fall asleep on that couch, and he falls asleep on this couch, and I'm in the middle, and they snore exactly the same. And it's like being in a wind tunnel. I can't even describe the sound, and they will snore exactly opposite. So it's like, I'm just like, go to bed. But it drowns out the sounds of the chickens at night.
Yeah.
We had a neighbor go, today, he goes, why are your I thought roosters only crowed in the morning. I go, well, they're on my schedule. They get fed at like noon. And so they crow at like 3 in the afternoon. It's a very, but my neighbors appreciate it. They don't mind them crowing in the afternoon. But that's kind of an old wives' tale. They really crow all the time. They don't shut up. Chicken looks at you the wrong way, the wind blows, a berry drops out of a tree, they're going to crow.
Yeah.
I don't hear it anymore because we leave the house like a wind tunnel. We have fans in every room to drown it out. So we had to turn them all off to do this, or it's deafening.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy, and it's a crazy life, and I love it.
Yeah.
You know, I saw Bigfoot. Well, I've seen Bigfoot, but I had a weird Bigfoot story going back to that subject. So I grew up in Washington State, so no surprise about the Bigfoot
Well,
thing.
also, I think people are like, whoa, Bigfoot stories. Then we start talking about hitting deer on like the red carpet and all that. Like,
well, yeah, if we hit a deer, it would be a red carpet.
so if you're like, oh, man, what an interesting subject in Bigfoot. And you're like, oh, no, that's actually kind of a little bit more interesting. But now we have to go back to Bigfoot.
Yeah,
something a little more mundane.
Yeah, we got to go back to Bigfoot. So I grew up in Washington State, obviously. It's probably where the dark hair comes from. And you know why I'm a vampire and the automatic doors at the store don't open for me. In fact, bunny trail here, but we were at Aldi, and Aldi never opens for me. Never. I will actually stand in front and wave, and then it eventually opens. And last week we went there, and there were some guys repairing the door thing, and I go, will it now open for me? He goes, yeah, it'll open for anyone. He says, why don't you test it for me? And I walk back and walk right into the door. They don't see me. I don't know why. So I'm a vampire, but yeah. So I grew up in Washington State, and my best friends, Karen and Sharon, not naming Latin last names, but if they hear this, they'll remember this. They had this awesome pet squirrel and rat. But anyways, that's just, the woods. But they had this 2-story house with like this huge wraparound porch, but it's on the 2nd story. And this is what everyone in Washington does when you're little. You stay up all night and swap Bigfoot stories. You try to scare your friends with Bigfoot stories.
Yeah.
But they were adamant, and their dad was adamant that they see Bigfoot all the time. And I'm like, and he was a jokester. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Sure you do. And that morning, they had laid wet cement all over. They did like a cement patio right below this porch. It was still wet. And this was on Sedgwick Road. You can actually look up many reports if you go to, I think it's the BFRO site where you can look up Bigfoot reports in the area. There's a lot on this road. So, and you can actually see what I'm about to talk about. So all night, we're swapping our stories. We got our snacks out. We got flashlights. We're scaring each other. I think we were all like 12. We hear this noise. Crunch, crunch. We're like, oh my God, it's outside. But you're still like, yeah, we're psyching each other out. There's nothing going on.
Because you're just talking about Bigfoot
we were just talking about
to
it,
scare
right?
each other.
Well, then their security motion light goes off. And we run to the window and there's nothing there. And we're like, must have been a bird, bat. Bats were real common. We were feeding the bats that night. And I go, it's got to be a bat. And she goes, no, it's Bigfoot. That's what it does. She's like, you don't see it, but it sets off the security light is so fast. She goes, and its head actually comes up to the bottom of the porch. It didn't bother them. Like, it didn't scare them. And I'm kind of getting a little scared. And I'm like, starting to think, I'm going to see these eyeballs come up over the edge of the porch, right?
Yeah.
And we are stomp, stomp. And it's 2 a.m. And everyone's asleep. And it was a really loud crash, stomp, stomp. And then kind of a crash, 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 crash through the woods. And I'm like, well, it's probably deer. This is going on all night. And about an hour later, we hear this really awful noise. It was like something had been hurt. And then it just goes flying through the woods. And that's the last thing we heard all night. And we were up probably till the sun came up. And then we, zonked out. We're in our sleeping bags. We slept till noon. Their dad comes running up and goes, wake up, wake up. Bigfoot was here. We're like, okay, like Bigfoot's the Santa Claus of the, Northwest. He goes, no, I'm serious. He was here. Like, I've got proof. I'm like, okay, what kind of joke is he pulling? He's like, he left footprints in the wet cement. And I was like, you left footprints in the wet cement, right? And we go down, and sure enough, there was 2 footprints, and they were a good 8 feet apart. And they don't look like anything anyone human made. And it made sense thinking back to the crash, weird howling noise running through the woods. He must have stomped into the cement. What the heck is this? Stomp out. And those, I believe, are still here to that. People still visit the footprints in the cement on Sedgwick Road, but I was there. And I was fascinated after that. I was always Bigfoot hunting. Every time we went hunting in the woods, I went to the clear cuts. I'd be like this with the binoculars. Funny enough, grew up in Washington State, Bigfoot country. moved to Oklahoma, didn't even realize they have Bigfoot here. I'm like, why would Bigfoot live here? Why would anyone live here, right?
Yeah. It feels like they're less active here than from what your
That's
stories
because it's
say.
too damn hot. Yeah, so they, but believe it or not, I didn't see a Bigfoot till I moved to Oklahoma, which doesn't seem very fair. But at the house across the lake, the other one, when we first moved here, I would throw like compost scraps out past this one tree. And we had some stew go bad in the fridge. And I'm like, oh, if I had a week till the trash came. And I hate to admit I did this, but I was not going to smell that in my trash out by the house for a week. And it was like, hot. So I said, let's just tie it in a bag and go bury it in a hole in the backyard. And so we did that. We put it in a Ziploc bag and we went behind this tree and we buried it. We thought we buried it really well because I said dogs might dig it up. And later that night, the propane man comes out to fill the tank, and that's kind of kitty corner to the house, and the tree is here. And he goes, can you watch this? I've got to go back to my truck, and this is right at dusk. And I see what looks to me like a grizzly bear at the side behind the tree, kind of the corner of my vision. I went, what? They don't have grizzly bears here. And I said, they don't have brown bears here. And I'm thinking, I knew they had black bears. I'm like, but that looks like grizzly bear fur. And I'm getting kind of scared. And I realize, as tall as it is, I'm not safe even back in the house. And I told the propane guy as he comes back around, I go, there's something behind that tree. And he looks and he goes, it's like a bear. So, pretty sure they don't have grizzly bears in Oklahoma, or I just spotted the first one, but I'm pretty sure it was Bigfoot and it was going after the stew. So, you just see stuff when you live in the woods, and I am an absolute firm believer that Bigfoot exists and is a real animal that,
Yeah. And we've had a lot of situations in which it was like minor stuff where we really couldn't say for certain if it was Bigfoot, but it's like, it's fun to still talk about it, Well, like one night, it was the first house we lived in Oklahoma. It was nighttime. We drove home. That's the
same one I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and you saw in the headlights, like the house is here, and then the head. We drove up. You can see the headlight hit the house, but the other one went past into the woods. And my mom says that because she was on the passenger side, she could see directly where it was pointing in the woods, and she said that the some like big tall creature quickly scurried into the woods because it got hit by the headlights.
Yeah. Yeah, so just, a lot of those things, I mean, I'm honestly not scared of them. I think, obviously, they're more scared of us than anything,
Yeah.
or we'd see them all the time. And I think it's one of those things where you like the Futurama, where they declare Bigfoot's, extinct or something, based on theory. But I think there's less of them. I just do, because we don't hear them anymore. We used to always hear them in October.
I also think it's the location we live in, I think, is not a part of one of their trails or something too.
Yeah, but so I was like, save the endangered Bigfoot. And I know a lot of people out there going, we're gonna kill one if we can for proof, but they've got blood, footprints, butt prints, hair. They have more than enough out there to say, hey, let's not kill one if we have the chance to. And yeah. I sure wouldn't, and even if one came stomping through trying to kill my chickens and everything I had, I wouldn't put one out. I think they're
just scared
special.
Away.
Yeah, I'd be like, time to go. But it's just one of the things that we're passionate about here.
Yeah, because I just lost my thought.
Train wreck.
So Bigfoot is that seems to be kind of an ongoing story with us, where everywhere we go we seem to have like some encounter, or there's a little bit of a story we hear from somebody else, and so it's always been very fun. But it's just always been harder to. A lot of people just don't believe in Bigfoot still, and it's like, well, we've encountered enough evidence, or we've heard about enough evidence to kind of go. It's hard not to believe it in a lot of ways, but then a lot of people come up with a lot of. So you go like, oh, they don't have proof of him in any way, therefore he can't exist, or how come this or that. Like, a lot of people have different reasonings for why they don't believe in him, so we end up also coming up with a lot of theories on why he still exists despite that stuff. For one, I think you say like there's no evidence of him, but there is a lot of evidence. It's just the way it works. They can't necessarily prove them existing with the evidence. Yeah. Like when you have hair samples, but you do DNA testing, and it's like they go, oh, the DNA doesn't match with anything that's on record, therefore it's not Bigfoot. It's like, but you don't have Bigfoot on record. Yeah. You know? So it's like the fact that it doesn't match with anything kind of proves that it's a different species entirely.
Yeah. Well, and a little bit of a bunny trail here, but I highly recommend the book Monster by Frank Peretti. It's about Bigfoots. It's a very interesting story / theory, and he's from Vashon Island in Washington, so kind of where all the loons are from. But if you're up there, you understand that joke. But great book. It's a thick one. You can probably get it on audio or something, but you'll love it. It's very, very engrossing. Some woman is kidnapped by a family of Bigfoots, and they gotta. It's kind of how it starts. So
and like there have been like a lot of stories like that happening. Yeah. So we watch like a lot of shows that talk about the stories, and we just like hearing the stories, but those shows sometimes go on about different theories themselves that always kind of like, from our own experiences, just don't really work.
Yeah.
But the most funny thing is when they go on like Bigfoot hunts at night.
Oh, I know.
And like we're laughing because we know they're not going to find anything.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons, because they'll have like giant searchlights on every single person that are lighting up the entire forest, and like they're not like flashlights. They're actually like shoulder mounted.
Yeah.
And they're ridiculous, and they're making as much noise as they possibly can, while also whispering.
It's the Blair Bigfoot Project. They're always with the flashlight like this.
I know.
And I know somewhere that Bigfoots are laughing their butts off.
Because they're like, all right, now if we do a Bigfoot call and hit the tree a few times, we'll get a response. Now it'll be proof that he exists. And then they do the most like half-assed Bigfoot call you could possibly do. And then they get like the tiniest stick possible, kind of this tap, and the twig is like a twig. It doesn't even snap in half. You know what it is?
They're afraid of actually seeing something.
They don't
want us, but I know what happens.
Well, you know they're afraid because the tiniest noise in the forest, and they'll go, okay, but that's the expedition is.
The dog is snoring really loud. And now she's quiet. Much like Bigfoot. You can't capture anything.
Like, the tiniest noise will happen, and you go, but we're done. The expedition's good. We'll get back to the car. It's like, explore the noise first.
Yeah, but I know how it goes. You know what it is? As soon as they come out and they do that first light and they make that call, all the Bigfoots in the area go, hey, the show is on. Get the popcorn. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's so stupid. I'm like, it's much like that Curse of Oak Island show. They're not really trying to find Bigfoot. I mean, they're doing everything to do not to find Bigfoot. I'm like, geez, man. It's just crazy. Mike likes to watch all those shows. I'm like, they just crack me up because like that, they'll go, woo oop, woo oop. I'm like, that is not nothing you hear in nature.
Yeah. Or you do the woo, woo. It's like that. You're calling Bigfoot, like, not Ric Flair.
Woo-loo-loo, woo-loo-loo. Yeah, Ric Flair. I've been accused of being a Bigfoot too. I mean, we have big feet in our family. I have a size 11, and another tangent here, but these can be funny. Another Hollywood story. So, I was flying home from an event out there, and this was can't remember the date, but there was a bombing in France, and they had shut down the airport. So suddenly they're having all this security. And they had all the dogs out, and I'm scared to death of flying. I really won't do it unless I have to. I drive everywhere. I mean, I drive out to California, Nashville, Dallas, whatever. So, I'm coming through, and it's an excessively long line just to get into security because they're holding up all the flights. And I get all the way through, and I notice there's two lines. There are the people that are just, I will not go through the scanners. They're not healthy. But everyone that's going through the scanners are over here. And I'm watching as one person after another strips down to their underwear and comes through the scanner. And I'm going, what is going on? And I didn't realize about the bombing. And so they had really upped security. And since I won't go through the scanners, I get the friendly feel up from the 7-year-old ladies in the security line. But this was a man, and I came through, and I'm wearing boots. I wear boots all the time, and I do look like a man, where looks like manly boots. And I walk up, and he goes, "What are you hiding in those shoes?" And I go, "Big feet. You want to see them?" And he goes, "Are you a woman?" I go, "Are you allowed to ask that?" And he goes, "Well, I have to know, which person we send to, check out what's in those big boots." I go, "Giant feet. Would you like to see them?" I was like, "Maybe that's your thing." So I start taking off my boots, and I'm like, "See, big feet," and I'm just going, "Oh my gosh." And meanwhile, I'm dealing with this while watching one person after another strip down to nothing and come. It was the craziest trip. Well, I mean, no, it wasn't the craziest trip, but it was weird, So I had to tell my husband, like, home, like, I think I was being accused of being a cross dresser. And I'm like, then I'd be a whole lot more fashionable at the airport than I was. That's why I thought it was funny, because I wasn't fashionable enough, to have pulled that off. But yeah, I was like, no, it's just giant feet. So my friends growing up, everyone called us the Bigfoot family. My dad had like a size 16, so did my brother. And they're like, "That's you guys stomping through the forest." And it would be fun if I went to the beach or something. I'd make sure I left really far spaced footprints and things,
Yeah.
So it's just kind of fun. But Bigfoot's been a fun part of my life,
Yeah.
I guess I'd be really sad if somebody shot one or put them in a zoo. I mean, I like the mystery of them being out there but not caught.
Yeah, because it's one of like the last few things that you can really have like campfire stories with. It's like a the world's been explored so much. It's like the one last great mystery in the woods.
Yeah, stinky mystery.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing. When the wind would come across the lake just right, you'd know. I mean, because you cannot even describe the smell. And it's like if Sandy rolled in every bad thing there was all at once, and it sat in the heat in 110-degree Oklahoma heat for a month or two.
Yeah.
And we had, like I said, we had a neighbor up the street who was a Bigfoot field researcher. That's what he said, and he was really into it. And he goes, and he said he had a great view. His house overlooked the lake, and he goes, "They go out and bathe in the water, and that's what you're smelling." He goes, "The wind crosses over," and he's like, "I got pictures." Of course, he never could produce the pictures. He's like, "I take pictures of them all the time and video." I'm like, "I'd like to see one." I can't get into them right now. I have too many to even go through. You can't even see just one. And that's the whole thing. Bigfoot is always in the out of focus areas. Right?
Yeah. He likes to wander and prance in the out of focus areas of the woods.
Yep. I know. Give him, and here's the thing is, another thing you do with, because of deer and whatnot, to, around here, people will buy the Irish Spring bars of soap and hang them around their crops to keep the deer away. And I'm kind of like, well, you could solve two problems here. If Bigfoot would just steal the Irish Spring, then no one would know they exist.
Yeah.
But instead, the rats eat them. They'll eat anything.
Yeah.
Just another day in the woods, I guess.
Yeah, but like we have like a lot of fun theories too, because like a lot of people when you think about the expeditions, there's a lot of shows, they'll usually like go out in the woods, but sometimes they will just leave cameras and then they'll leave the area entirely to make sure that animals actually want to go through there, and they still don't find them. And I think since Bigfoot's they communicate using verbal stuff, like they do the whooping and the loud noises in the tree branch stuff. I think because that they have a very highly trained ear, or at least one that's sensitive. So I think they can hear people and even electronic equipment enough to avoid it.
Well, they like saxophones, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but really quickly, I think it's possible electronics do emit a noise, and it probably bothers them. Yeah. I think that's why the more technology progresses, the less likely you are to get footage of them too. Yeah.
Well, I was saying they like saxophones because, and this was never explained unless I play so terrible, all of nature revolts against me. But when I was, I was never allowed to practice my saxophone or clarinet at home. My parents could not even handle the noise. They're like, "Go way up on the hill so we don't hear you."
They're pretty loud.
Yeah. Well, we had, this large hill. Is an awful climb to get up on top. But I loved going up there, and I would just play. And, you're all alone in the woods. You think, and I'd be playing, and many times I'd start to play to get pelted by rocks, pine cones, and I'd be looking around like, is it the squirrels? But then, the rocks would get kind of big, and I'm like, ouch, and that's not a squirrel, And so I started taking my St. Bernard up with me and my German Shepherd for protection, and they would always be fine. This didn't always happen, but when it would, I'd always notice beforehand, they'd kind of freak out. Like, we don't want to be here. There's something bigger around. Whack, a rock, whack, a pine cone. They always had a good aim, and so I...
You say for both Bigfoot and your dog, you gotta, like...
Yeah, well, I meant
either
more
a dog
than...
was
I think
scared
there was...
or something bigger around, and then the rock would hit something.
Yeah, there may have been more than one Bigfoot. But the funny thing I also would notice is if I quit playing, they'd throw the rocks. Yeah. So it's kind of like keep playing. So I think maybe I created a habit going up there every day. I did this for a couple of years, and playing. And it's kind of neat. Just one with nature being pelted by rocks and pine cones. Still so like, being home.
Yeah, so you're like playing saxophone so often that Bigfoots came for the music.
Yeah.
And when he would stop, they get angry and throw rocks at you.
Yeah. And that's why I think, like he says, there's certain noises they like. Maybe something like a horn. So maybe if you're trying to find a Bigfoot, maybe you should take a saxophone into the woods or some horns or something interesting, because this whole silly whoop whoop woo is not going to work, I promise.
Yeah. Especially like in a lot of the shows, they will take recordings and play them back through speakers. It's like that's not going to work either, because the way electronic speakers work, these sound waves are going to be sharper and more painful.
Yep.
If you have a trained ear, you'll especially like you have a lot of musician friends, why you're called the rock duck.
Yeah.
And they will tell you it's like it does not sound the same.
Nope. Yeah. I have a trained ear. I think I've written whole orchestrations. I play 5 instruments. Or played. It's been many years, but you can tell the difference. Any of my audiophile friends will tell you something that's been pre-recorded that was like picked up in the woods. Partially, you don't get a real good recording in the woods on a cell phone, and then you're broadcasting it, is going to scare nature away, not make them go, "Oh, that's Aunt Sally," It's just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, those. So if you're listening out there, BFRO or anybody that does these, research,
explain what BFRO means.
I don't remember. It's like Bigfoot Field Research Organization. Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking.
Yeah, they're the ones that have that show on TV, and it's like Matt Moneymaker and some of these other guys. My husband watches a lot. He's never. I think he's a pre-believer. He wants to believe,
Yeah, but he still enjoys the stories a lot.
He likes the stories.
He would show us a lot of stories he finds, and he even finds some YouTube videos, and there's like some pretty compelling ones. A lot of them we laugh because it's pretty obvious, or it's like there's no hard evidence what it is, but it's pretty obvious that it's not a Bigfoot to us. But people are still scared of it. It's like they're hearing like an owl. Yeah. And owls make really weird noises, and you're like, "That's a Bigfoot call." It's like, no, it's an owl.
It's a sick owl.
Or not jaguar. What's those
cougar?
Like the cougars make a lot of weird noises, and like, yeah, that sounds nothing like what you think a cougar would sound like, but that's what they sound like,
Well, speaking of cougars, I grew up where those were common, or wolves were common, so I know what a cougar looks like. And same place where we, at our old house, you had to cross over this small bridge. We lived on a peninsula. And wild animals would always cross right before the bridge. And I was coming home at like 1:30 at night once, and I see something starting to cross the bridge. So I stop. And you got to wait till it crosses. And right there, very slowly in my headlights, crosses a really big cougar. And I went, okay. And I happened to mention it the next day because we had the sheriff coming out for a different reason. I said, I saw a cougar last night. And he goes, no, you didn't. They don't exist in Oklahoma. And I go, I know what I saw. He's like, no, it was something else. It was late at night. He didn't believe me. And then a little bit up the road, and this was wintertime, we had snow, and that's pretty unusual. So my neighbor was out looking, in the snow, and sees these giant cat tracks. And he calls us up, and he gets all these pictures, and he goes, this giant cat. He's like, I don't know if it's someone's house cat or what. And I go, it's a cougar. I saw it last night. And nobody would believe it. So funny enough, 3 years later, the state of Oklahoma has now listed them as indigenous species. So I guess I know what I saw. But bunny trail, this is really a bunny trail. It's funny. This just goes along with cryptid creatures. So, we have the giant rabbits, and you hear stories from other people that have these giant rabbits. And so this old man is telling us, and this was somewhere in Kansas, and I'm not going to give too many details because then people will know who did this. But he tells us, he goes, he was driving home one day, and he's out off the highway and slows down. And he was bringing his Flemish Giants home from a show or something, and one escapes. And he can't find it anywhere. It's a big black one. And he says 3 days later, it apparently had died right by the side of the highway and had bloated. So he said it was 30 pounds to begin with. And so you can imagine this is now looking like some furry, weird, it's got ears, it must be a rabbit, 30-pound, rabbit. And the county picks it up. And he said, like, the next day he's at a restaurant and everyone is talking about, small towns, about this giant cryptid monster rabbit that they don't know where it came from. And he's like, spits out his coffee, and he's like, do I tell? I might be getting in trouble. You know what? They'll make me pay that bill. So he's like, I'm not going to pay that bill. I'm not going to admit to nothing. He said 10 years later, they have like this, this restaurant is now this center for hunting these giant rabbits that are indigenous to the area. Maybe they think like it's the Bigfoot of rabbits, and he's still like,
because it's a unusually large sized rabbit, but then because it was dead and bloated, it was
black,
unnaturally large rabbit now.
And it's black, which they wouldn't be wild rabbits and they were black. So, it's like the stories just went crazy. And he's just telling me this like he had to get it off his chest before he died, kind of a story. And I am just like cry laughing as he's telling me this, because I'm just picturing all these people and the fact that they're selling t-shirts, he says, and they have maps up where they've seen it, and people are seeing these all over. It was the only one, he guarantees. So probably some of these cryptid stories started this way, but I don't, Bigfoot is not. It's too big, too many places, too many countries,
Yeah, there's a consistency to the stories and in the amount of places. It'd be too unbelievable. It's like there's stories that predate all the famous ones too. So it's not like there was one guy who made it up and then it spread from there, because you will find stories about it from before that big thing. It's like Peterson films? It's like everyone thought, oh, that was like the big one that made everyone see Bigfoot. It's like, but there's stories from the 1800s, of people who were...
Well, even Theodore Roosevelt claims he saw a man kill one.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the Native Americans have stories of Bigfoots that are from who knows how long. And that's just the Native Americans, but there's ones in other continents that are that long. It's like it's just it's too consistent for us not to believe it at this point.
Exactly, Yetis, Yowies, there's all these things and different colors, different.
I think the Australian name, I can't remember what it was, but it's actually like a really cute name. Like, why would they?
Everything in Australia is really cute.
Yeah, it's like no matter how dangerous it is, they give it the cutest name they can.
Like a diaper is called a nappy, most dangerous thing on earth. Or the shrimp on the Barbie. I mean, just they're so cute, like budgies for the little parakeets. They just they come up with the cutest names. I wonder what they call a turd. Flutie. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like you're just thinking like Bigfoot is this horrifying monster in the woods that you tell horror stories about. But it's then they call it like a miwi or something.
I know, a kiwi. And I promise they're telling horror stories to their kids about us. Can you imagine how that goes?
Yeah. Because like Bigfoot's, they're big and intimidating, but they're clearly shy and scared of people.
And obviously smart, or they would have been caught already.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just, I love those kind of mysteries. I don't think it's a bad mystery.
Yeah.
I think people dwell on mysteries sometimes, and some things are, real, some things are demonic, some things are just some guy's rabbit that fell off the back of a truck. Me rolling a deer up on a tarp. You know, it's like rumors get started. It can be very fun sometimes. You know?
Yeah, and honestly, a lot
Especially
of people...
if you launch the greatest joke of all time. That guy's like the father of all pranks with that rabbit, if he'd done it on purpose.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, honestly, that diner would not be angry. They go, "Thank you for the business."
Yeah.
You know.
I just can't even imagine. Yeah, he's telling me this, and I'm just... Because we had told him we had one of our black rabbits get loose that day, and that's when he told us the whole story. So now when one of them get loose, I just picture, you know, catch it quick before that happens.
Yeah.
They don't run fast. These type are very slow, and that's probably why his just stayed right near the same highway. You know, they're very, very lazy. It probably fell asleep in the sun and died. I mean, they sleep more than a cat.
Yeah.
You know, but it was cute.
But there's a lot of people who go crazy with all these, you know, conspiracy theories or cryptid sightings. They'll start to believe anything is, and so we try to be a bit more what's the word?
Rational.
Yeah.
Scientific.
Yeah, like we'll go that. Our first reaction is not, "Whoa, that's Bigfoot." That's
not Bigfoot.
It's like, but if the evidence piles up, we go, "Yeah, maybe," you know. But you know, there's a lot of people who just won't believe it no matter what. It's like there's no evidence. They'll say it's like, but there is. It's like, it's you know, there's people on both ends. Like we try to be more in the center of. It's really fun, and we think we have seen it, and we do believe, but we totally understand if no one else does.
Yeah.
You know, but we're not going to be like those crazy people who see Bigfoot everywhere.
Believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's all Bigfoot. You know, it's fun though, and it's fun scaring people
You're
when
like,
they come out.
We heard a rattling in our trash cans last night, and when we shined a flashlight, there was eyes peeking at us about 3 feet off the ground.
It must be a Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's like. And it made a weird warbly noise. Like,
it sure wasn't a raccoon.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I think that was a raccoon. It's like, no, Bigfoot. It's like, you said it's only 3 feet. I was like, oh, he was crouching. A baby. Yeah, or it was a baby. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh, man. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff. It gets late. You get kind of goofy.
Yeah.
You know, but we just thought we'd throw Bigfoot out there because you know, it's such a fascinating subject for everybody. Well, most people. Some people are like, who cares about Bigfoot?
Yeah.
You know, there's more important things in the world. You know, and there certainly is, but it brings back such fond memories for a lot of people, especially if you grew up in places where Bigfoot's common and your family shares the stories and you scare your friends who don't know about it. You know, and you get just downright crazy with, you know, traps and snares and you know, get to scare your friends. And it's to the point where they'll never, ever camp in the woods again. That's always the goal. You know, you're like, if the Bigfoot doesn't work, you go very quickly to bears or more plausible things, and that'll be it, you know.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of funny. A lot of people go like, it's actually a bear standing up while looking up too. So its snout is what looks like the head of a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
It's like, that is more irrational and harder to believe than it being Bigfoot. That people are spotting bears that are standing upright and pointing their snout upward.
Yeah.
And are bouncing like that and walking across the woods while doing that. It's like bears aren't natural you know, like ballerinas. Mm-hmm. They're not gonna walk around looking upward.
They're not that graceful.
Yeah, they wouldn't be graceful at it. They wouldn't be walking very fast. They'd be kind of stumbling.
You'd be hearing a lot of stories of bears falling down, rolling down hills. I mean,
yeah, it's like, yeah, we know a bear exists. Therefore, it's more rational to assume that it's a creature we know exists. Until you realize the details of your story are that the creature that we know exists is doing something unbelievable, rather than being a creature that like so many people believe exists.
Or there was a grizzly bear loose in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Occam's razor and whatnot.
But the grizzly bear was standing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because don't forget, you say you it was soup that you put out.
Yeah.
So a bear was standing up to investigate soup on the ground.
Yeah. Or it was someone else presented this theory that it was standing on his hands.
Oh yeah.
They said, yeah, it was getting soup. It was standing on its hands. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the fun thing is the theories when these things happen, because sometimes it's so crazy you don't really know what to think.
But yeah, so we just thought we'd just have a fun story because this series of videos it's to give information out, but also to just be the conversations that we normally have, anyways.
Yeah.
So people get a glimpse into the fun stuff we talk about. I hope they can hear that.
I don't know if they can pick that up. It's pretty loud.
And her feet are slowly...
Her feet are slowly shaking.
Yeah, they're slowly walking. Aw.
Aw. She's cute.
Yeah, we definitely need to do a video about the animals at some point, if people want it.
Oh, yeah.
But,
or if someone could tell us how to set up a camera that runs, 24/7 in one of the cages, like with the rabbit babies or something. Everyone has been asking us to do that.
Because they do some cute things, for sure. But they also stay in their little house too much for that, I think.
Yeah, but you could get a camera in there. One of my friends managed to do it. Is there anything not cute they do? I can't think of a single thing. Even when they poop, it's cute.
Yeah. You barely notice it. It's just like maybe the tail will twitch.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's cute. Oh.
Well, okay, it's not cute when you pick them up and you hold them this way and it shoots a turd at someone.
I've never seen them do that.
When Nancy, I'm calling you out. When Nancy was here and we were trying to mate her rabbit, she picked it up, and as she's holding it like this, I quickly moved to the... She was holding it like a gun. I quickly moved to the side, and sure enough, it starts shooting pellets. And then, worse than that, you didn't hear about this. Poor Judge, we go to have them mate, we set him inside, and she pees all over him. I mean, we were like, we've never seen that before.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, look, he just got golden showers.
Yeah.
Totally inappropriate comments. What do you do when people are in your house mating bunnies? I mean, and then we're like, oh, I'm not bathing him. Oh, we let him stay out there long enough to clean it up, and then we put him back in his enclosure. Oh. And it's like, Mike hosed it off a little bit, but.
Yeah, and wash him's hard because they can't be like wet too long or something.
Yeah, they can't be wet too long. Yeah. So we hosed off the spot and kind of dried it with some paper towels, and I mean he'll groom himself, but I don't think he knew what to do either because we've never seen that happen.
We've seen the rabbits shocked where they just stop and are like, what just happened? And they'll just stare, and you can see their eyes kind of move back and forth like they're thinking, and they're not like scared. They're shocked.
Yeah.
I've seen the rabbits like that. Like when he got peed on, I'm sure he stopped. He got shocked.
He did. He just stood there like, "What happened?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was, Nancy was kind of like, "What happened?" So.
Yeah, and you can see him slowly come to her senses as they kind of look around and start moving her head and like start using their ears again and like, okay, life is still going on, but what was that?
Yeah. So just crazy animal life, and throw some Bigfoots in there, and you know that's our life. So
yeah, I guess we were on to talk about Bigfoot because we kind of missed. There hasn't been like any sounds or sights in the house that we currently live in, and so it's like
just kind of miss it.
Yeah, it's like the TV shows have become so consistent in the sense that they're just doing the same thing over and over, and they barely focus on the stories that the actual people have gone through, and it's more so like, oh, big production, big play of going out in the woods with all these lights. It's like that's not what we want to hear. We want to hear the actual stories that people have encountered.
Yeah.
So if anyone has any fun Bigfoot stories, you can definitely write those in the comments. We'd love to hear them.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. So we're going to let you go for tonight, but we'll figure out some more craziness to do next time. So, like, subscribe, check us out on, I think we're on Rumble, Brighteon, let's see, what's the other one? Patreon, YouTube, Facebook. So, if you think of another one we've missed, definitely let us know. But
well, you'll write them in the description.
I will. I'll write them down. So, but we love you guys, and we will be back with you next time.